Hey, happy Wednesday to everybody. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. It's actually 3:30 a.m. I wish I had remembered this before. I just downloaded the video that you're going to see first before this about dreams and the many world theory. And I talked about that because I really didn't have anything else that popped up into my mind. I wish I had remembered this. Something happened yesterday. And when it happened, I was like, I have to talk about this on my YouTube channel. It has to do with positivity and having a negative attitude or a positive attitude and being an alpha male, because it's also got to do with that. And I want to ask you guys' opinion on this. So let me set the picture for you guys, because this could have ended in an altercation. This could have ended up in a physical altercation or worse. And it all depends. I think it had a lot to do with the way that I handled the situation. I want you guys' opinion. So I'm riding my bike yesterday, as I do every morning, and I'm riding down a sidewalk. Now there's a lot of construction. It's a very busy. It's Route 6 in Bristol, Connecticut. It's an extremely busy main thoroughfare through the city, and there's construction going on. And there's no the side lane, the white lift, there's no area on the road to ride a bike in this one particular stretch. So I was on the sidewalk, and not only I was on the sidewalk, but there's construction going on in the houses and the buildings along this stretch. So I'm very slowly, probably just moving along at 5 miles an hour down this sidewalk, because there's a lot of potholes and stuff. So I'm just kind of creeping along, moving down to go to the bank yesterday morning. And I see a truck pull up in front of a house maybe about 200 feet in front of me, like a work truck. And it pulls up it stops on, like, there's no breakdown lane, like I said. And he stops on the side of the road, which, it got my attention because he's already impeding traffic. It's just a very, very busy 2-lane highway with constant traffic. And where he parked, he's almost in one of the lanes. So he parks on the side of the road, and I see him as I'm riding down the sidewalk. I'm going downhill, slight downhill, and I see him get out, and he kind of gets out. He has to get out into traffic, and he starts putting on a vest, and he's got a construction hat on, and there's a building being worked on right there. And as I'm rolling towards him, slowly rolling towards him, he sees me. He's struggling with his vest. He looks like he's having a tough morning. Honestly, it reminded me back when I used to drink and I'd go to work, and I was just like in a bad mood, and nothing's going right. It's because I see him, and he's struggling with his vest and his hat and everything. And he sees me, and I'm closing the distance between us, and he comes up the bank about 10 feet up the grass bank and then to the sidewalk. And he stops right in the middle of the sidewalk. Now I'm only about maybe 80 to 100 feet away. And he knows I'm rolling down the sidewalk on my bank. Like I said, there's a lawn over here, there's a grass area over here, but he stops right on the sidewalk and starts putting on his vest. And he just keeps working with his vest. And, and it becomes clear to me, he's right in the middle of the sidewalk, and he's not, so he's making a stand. He's taking up the whole sidewalk and forcing me to make a decision. Because he saw me coming. So right off the bat, I decided how I was going to handle this. I moved my bike over, like, onto the grassy hill going down to the road, which is a little dangerous. It's just a small, like, 10-foot grassy hill that goes down to where he parked his truck. So I move over onto the grass and give him space. And not only do I do that, but as I come up to him, he turns and looks at me, because he was looking for he was obviously, he was standing his ground. I'm guessing he's thinking bikes shouldn't be on the sidewalk. I'm going to work. This guy isn't working, and he shouldn't be riding his bike on the sidewalk. So he's making a point of getting in my way. That's my idea, my thought on this. And he looks at me with an attitude. And instead of getting an attitude like I probably used to, I would have done, instead of, saying what something wise, I didn't do that. I smiled at him. And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he looked rough. It took him off balance, and he just, and then I go, "Good morning." I said, "Good morning." And, it kind of forced him. At first, he didn't want to say anything. And then when I said good morning, he starts walking away and he goes, morning, and he kind of grudgingly just forgets it and walks off the path, walks off and starts walking to the house, the construction area. And I rode my bike away, and I started thinking about this. It was the way that I handled this. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I've changed my attitude to a positive attitude. And if I didn't have that attitude, if I still had the attitude that I used to have, that a lot of people do have, I run into these people every day where, you don't give to other people. You're in a bad mood, you're in your own head, and you're just like, this person's in my way, this person's making it harder for me, and that's the way he was thinking of this. But instead, I decided to approach this in just a friendly, outgoing manner, and I kind of forced him. When I first said, how you doing, he didn't respond. And then I said, good morning. And it almost seemed like he didn't want to respond, but he felt he had to. And it was a grudging, morning. And I'm all cheery and I'm not confronting him. And so it kind of took the air out of his possibly belligerent stance, and I was glad I did this. Now I talk about being an alpha male. Now, being an alpha male, let me ask you guys, is that not being an alpha male? I think it is. It's learning how to handle, how to deal with other guys, how to have positivity. To be honest with you guys, in my head, I feel like I kind of controlled the outcome of that between me and him, instead of falling into what I believe he was looking for, was a confrontation, instead of going along with that, which might have been what, some other, maybe a beta male would have done. Or a beta male would have just ignored the situation, head down. Or instead of going and letting him control the outcome of this, I turned it in a different direction. Because why? What's the point? I look from my point of view, he intentionally, it really looked intentionally like he blocked the sidewalk. He was looking for a confrontation. I saw him see me, and then I saw him move into the middle of the sidewalk and stop there until he knew that I was right there. He was intentionally blocking my path. So I could have had a problem with that. Whereas he could have looked at it from his point of view and said, this guy's a bicyclist. He should not be on the sidewalk. Here I am. I'm going to work. It's a construction area. There was no cones or flags or anything. The sidewalk was open. But he could have looked at it that way. And we both could have looked at it as, I'm right and this guy's wrong. I'm in the right here. But instead of doing that, I turned it into a different direction. And I felt good about that. Now I wonder how the rest of his day went. Because instead of getting more angry and more frustrated and getting into a situation with me, I kind of forced him to say good morning, and just, so I threw a little positivity into his day. So the next person he sees, what's he going to do? Is he going to argue with the next person? Maybe. Or maybe he's just going to do what I did to him and say, hey, good morning, and kid around, and maybe it will change his, I think there's a good chance that it will change his day. And I don't believe this makes me any less of an alpha male, because from my point of view, I controlled that situation. I turned that situation, that possible confrontation, into what was best for me, and probably best for him too, to a positive outcome, for everybody. Honestly, I really believe, I think, if I do this more in my life, it's a better life. It's an easier life. When you give a little, when you try to understand the other person's point of view, empathy, and honestly, there's bigger things going on that we all have to worry about than who's got the right of way on a sidewalk. Let's be honest, man. There's a lot more important things going on in our world, in our day, than who has the right of way. Seriously, So it's a silly argument. It would have been a silly confrontation to begin with. It would prove no point, no purpose. So let me know what you think. Was that an alpha male move or not? Was I being submissive to him? Let me know. I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a good Wednesday.